Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'll give it a minute for everyone to be able to pop in to this webinar. We'll start in just a minute. All right, I think we'll get started. Libia indicated it'll be a longer presentation, which will have a nice lot of images, so we'll get started. Hi, my name is Megan Zivic, and I'm the Chair of Education Outreach for the Women in Mining Arizona chapter. First, we'd like to say welcome and thank you for joining us for today's talk about mining reclamation in Bisbee, Arizona. Before we get started, we wanted to give a brief introduction to our organization, why we are hosting these talks. The Women in Mining Arizona chapter, or WIM AZ, is a nonprofit organization with several objectives, one of which is to educate our members and the public on technical, economic, regulatory, and other mining-related topics. To make this commitment, we're hosting these monthly dig-in events. And we'd like to give a brief thank you to our overall sponsor, Freeport-McMoRan. And I will switch over to Maria, who will give our speaker's bio today.
Thank you, Megan. We'd like to welcome Libia here. Libia is an environmental engineer with 8 years of experience in mining reclamation and environmental monitoring compliance, resource management, and also wildlife habitat development. She focuses on creating stable, self-sustaining ecosystems that meet the post-mining land use objectives and evaluates reclamation activities for stability, feasibility, and effectiveness. So Libia, thank you for being here. We're really looking forward to learning more from you. So go ahead, and if you want to share your screen and take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I appreciate it. It's a great honor for me to be here today presenting at WIM. I think this is a great platform for women in the industry, and I'm so glad to share the 9 years of experience that I have closing mines. So I'm going to talk to you about a really cool project that we have in Bisbee, Arizona. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Can you see it, right?
Yes.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect, thank you. So first of all, I want to talk to you about what is mine reclamation. So mine reclamation is the process of restoring land that has been mined, and we're going to turn it back into an economic or ecological use that it's beneficial. So in this case, you can see the Bisbee tailings that have been turned into habitat for wildlife. So that's Freeport's goal when we choose a post-mine land use. So what drives reclamation? So first of all, we want to turn back to the planet what it has given us. But also, Freeport is a member of several industry associations, and it's involved in various organizations that provide a platform for advancing sustainability. And then here you can see all the associations Freeport is part of. So we're part of the ICMM, the Copper Mark, the Wildlife Habitat Council, between others. And the Freeport is always committed to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Framework. Also, Freeport is contributing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and these are all the SDGs that the company is involved with. And reclamation is specifically involved with SDG number 12, which is responsible production, number 15, which is life on land, and number 17, partnership with other goals. So we're always striving to sustainable development and sustainable production. So now that we know what is reclamation and why we do it, we want to talk about reclamation goals. So in this case, specifically for Bisbee, we wanted to create a safe and stable landform. We want to avoid what has happened in the past, that tailings dams collapse and then cause this environmental disasters, or unfortunately lives get lost. So that's our number one goal: create stable and safe landforms. Also, we want to improve the ecosystem functionality by topographic integration. Like in this case, in Bisbee, we integrate the old mined historic landforms with reclamation. We also want to construct self-sustaining ecosystems with native plant species, because we don't irrigate any of our reclamations, we don't fertilize. We want to create a landform that's self-sustaining and that can stay there forever and self-regulate. We also design and construct low maintenance surface water drainage controls, because that's one of our biggest challenge, water and where it goes and what are we going to do with it. And then we want to avoid impacting water. So we always design and construct to manage water. We also want to minimize erosion and sedimentation. So we always design accordingly to the material that we find around our area and soil texture. So that way we can decide how steep the slopes can be, how long they can be. We also want to satisfy the stormwater discharge standards, because that's our #1 goal, to avoid disturbing or impacting water. We want to minimize net infiltration. We want all the precipitation that gets in touch with our reclamation to stay within the cover and then evapotranspirates. That's the kind of reclamation we're striving to. And then, of course, assure geotechnical stability. So once you have a tailings dam or a stockpile that you want to close, you need to plan for closure and design it. So first of all, you need to define the post-mine land use. Like I mentioned before, in our case, our post-mine land use is habitat for wildlife, but it could be anything. It could be a park, a shopping mall, parking lot, you name it. In our case, we wanted to bring it back to the landform that it used to be. Then you also need to do an inventory of what you have available, soil, rock, for construction. You want to keep it close to your tailings dams to keep the costs low, because hauling, it drives your costs up really fast. We also do inventories of what wildlife lives in that area, because we want to plant species to attract wildlife that lives in the area. And also we want to keep it as close to all the undisturbed sites that are in next proximity to our tailings or stockpiles. So we want to always do an inventory of what grows there, so we can plant it. We also do all the designing, permitting, engineering, and then hydrology and hydraulics. And then after you do all of that, then you start construction. You do all the grading, place the cover, do all the hydraulics, revegetate, and then the QA/QC. After everything is constructed and ready to go seeded, we do monitoring, maintenance, and management. So talking specifically about Bisbee and the challenges we encounter in that site. So here you see the tailings dam before being reclaimed. So you can see the water here that we had to control, and we evaporated. So everything that seeped from the dam reported into this basin, and then we pump it back up and evaporate it. So it was quite the challenge to come up with a strategy of how to reclaim this dam. And then the team came up with this really clever idea of how we're going to avoid doing all that hauling and regrading, because that's a big hole that we need to fill in. So we came up with this idea of putting these 3 basins that were going to serve as water throttling to avoid discharging water at the same time. So these features are lined to avoid water infiltration, and then they serve for wildlife so they can drink clean water unimpacted. And then we slowed down so how water was going to get off the dam. So whenever these 3 dams filled out, they reported to this one in the middle. And then when this one filled out, they will report to the channel. And then this is another example of how it looks from another angle. So the 3 basins report to the one in the middle, and then water flows this way. And then you can see it here. So this was a very clever idea too of how to manage water, but then how to use all this soil that we dug out from the infiltration basin to use it as cover material for the dam. And then water reports here, and then we infiltrate it into the aquifer to recharge it with clean, unimpacted water. So this is the infiltration basin in Bisbee, and this is an example from back in 2016. And then you're going to think like, how much water really can report there? We're in the Southwest, it doesn't rain that much, but we really need to manage water here. So you can see how in 1 hour, already 2 feet of water reported into the basin, and then another half a foot the next hour, and another half a foot the next hour. So a lot of water reports here. And then you can see how this basin really works, like, because 13 days later, all the water already infiltrated into the aquifer. So we've been monitoring this since we did reclamation, and then we've recharged the aquifer with 545 acre-feet of clean water. I think that's a really cool feature that we developed there. So, okay, reclamation is complete. What do we do next? So we have to monitor it. It's not just, oh, let's go dump some dirt and walk away. Reclamation is a very complex task that we have to do. So after we finish reclamation, we do monitoring. So we do surface stability and erosion surveys. We do surface water sampling, vegetation surveys like species composition, frequency, leaf area index. Then we compare what was seeded versus what's volunteering. We do landscape function analysis. We do infiltration studies and modeling, remote sensing using drones, and now we're doing carbon sequestration studies. So for the infiltration studies, we have sensors that are buried across all the tailings dams that monitor how fast or if any water infiltrates into the cover or into the tailings, and how well the reclamation is performing. Based on what we've seen in the past couple of years, we've encountered that the cover it's doing its job. All the water that is entering into the cover, it's getting absorbed by the roots of the plants and then evapotranspirates. So we're very, very happy that so far the cover is doing what it's supposed to do, which is avoiding water for infiltrating into the tailings and then into the aquifer. So we're very excited about that. We also do remote sensing and vegetation cover maps. So we fly drones and collect imagery and then create maps to see how well the sites are revegetating. We do vegetation studies by hand, but every time the reclamation keeps growing and growing and we have more area to cover. So it was getting more challenging to keep up with all the field studies. So using technology has helped us a lot in covering more area. So we create this cover vegetation maps, and then we can compare year to year how well vegetation is growing. Like in this case, we're starting to see like more and more coverage, and then we can compare it through the years. We also do carbon sequestration and ecosystem exchange studies. So we do above and below ground carbon and biomass. And we also do soil organic carbon measurements. And then we compare it to CO2 flush measurements derived from an eddy covariance tower at the Santa Rita experimental LTER ranch. And then we compare them. And so far, this was the first time we did this study here at the Bisbee tailings dam. And we're very excited to say that the CTSA acts as a measurable CO2 sink. And then comparing our data with the Santa Rita LTER, they are very comparable to a natural analog grassland. So this is very exciting. We're still exploring this new CO2 carbon credits that we're creating, and then see what we can do with them. But we are averaging approximately 1.2 tons of CO2 sequestered per a hectare per year in our sites. So we're very excited to see, because this is only one tailings dam, but we want to extrapolate it to all our reclaimed sites and really see how much CO2 we're actually absorbing from the atmosphere and sinking into these ecosystems. So once everything is completed, we're doing the monitoring. What else? What's next? So we have to do maintenance, because there's always lessons learned and planning for designing for future projects. So in this case, and this is a Bisbee tailings dam, I'm going to show a little video of how we do maintenance to avoid disturbing the vegetation that's already grown here. Because you can see like, oh, this is a little shrub, but it takes 7 years for a shrub to grow this big in this area, because it's challenging. You can see trees that are out there, but you could think like, oh, how long it takes to grow, but it takes a while. So when we're planning for maintenance, we want to disturb the least what the progress we've made. So we have to come up with clever ideas of how to avoid erosion and avoid disturbing the plants. So here's an example of how we do maintenance in some of our sites. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some mine reclamation examples and show you some before and afters that we're very proud to show from Bisbee. So this is the Sea Canyon area, and then I can show you how it has progressed from how it used to look to now. And this is how it looks now. This I went to the site a couple weeks ago and took this last pictures of how it looks. And this is the old Crawford mill and the progress. This is back in 2013. And this is from a couple weeks ago. This is the coal stockpile. This is the coal here in Dallas in the back. And then you can see how it changes. And then this is the coal in the back and South Bisbee. And this is how it looks now. This is a Dallas from a different angle and how it looks now. And then this is a tailings dam, the CTSA. I don't have like really updated pictures. This was back, I think, of 2015, and we haven't done any flights because the drone can't fly this high. So we need to hire a pilot to fly a bigger airplane to collect these pictures. But you can see how beautiful everything's developing and growing. This is the Galena stockpile. And this is how it looks now. And then this is the tailings dam, the CTSA. And actually this picture won us an award back in 2019, 18 or 19, I think, for the best reclamation site, I think in Arizona, or yeah, in Arizona. Oh, I'm not sure, or the US maybe. But you can see like how little this shrub was and how big everything is now. And then we want to show how we are using this habitat for how we are meeting our post-mine land use as habitat for wildlife. So we can see here that these are the basins that I showed you back there that are being actually used for habitat for wildlife. And then we can see numerous species, and they're actually using it because they're not only there to drink water, but like, for example, here, this bird is eating a tadpole or a little frog, I think. And it's being used for sure. So it's serving the purpose. And then here again, the circle of life, a coyote eating a little bunny. So we're very excited and very happy that it is serving its purpose and it is avoiding water from infiltrating. And we're very, very proud to show these pictures of these are the nocturnal animals, like a little raccoon here, owls, and a bobcat up here. So I showed you examples of just our Bisbee site, but Freeport has several reclamation locations, not only Bisbee. We have reclamation in North America, South America, Indonesia, and thousands of acres in the US, so in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. So we're very excited that these projects keep growing, and we want to keep helping and striving for a sustainable development. So thank you so much. Here's my email if anyone has any questions and want to directly reach to me, but I can answer any questions that you guys have right now. Thank you.
All right, Olivia, thank you so much. That was a really great example of what reclamation can really look like and some positive cases. I'm going to go ahead and facilitate the questions that we do have coming in. So the first one would be, which kind of cover material could we use in a tailings reclamation?
So thank you. That's a really good question. So first of all, you want to do an inventory of what you have available near your area. Because like I said, the thing that drives the cost of your reclamation up really high is hauling material. So you want to do an inventory of the kind of soil you have close to your area. So you want to do a texture inventory. Of course, you want your soil to be clean. You want to make studies of how much clay and how much rock percentage you have. So that's very site specific. And then you want to see if you have enough rock or riprap for your channels. So that it all depends on what you have in your site available. And then that will drive how long your slopes can be, how steep, if your material is very rocky. It's very site specific.
For sure. The next question was, were all those critter photos that you showed us taken in the same picture, in the same location, those photos?
Yeah, all those pictures are taken from up on the top from the 3 basins. We have wildlife cameras in each one of them, so they are collected from all those 3 sites, and then from the infiltration basins, the one where you see the deer swimming, those are from down in the infiltration basin. Yeah, but they're all from Bisbee.
All right. Another question was, what does Freeport do about closure design for global climate change?
That's a really, really good question. So when we are planning and designing for closure, we always look at historic data. And we always see like, oh, what's the biggest storm event that has happened in this area? And then we design for it. But then also we take in consideration that climate change it's happening, and then we might get storm events that are even bigger. So we plan ahead, and then we set a buffer zone. Like, for example, if we receive a specific storm event, then we plan 20% more area to control that event. And for example, when we're designing for vegetation coverage, we look at a vegetation that is adapted to lower precipitation than even the precipitation we have in that area, because droughts are now getting longer and longer, and we need to be ready for that. We don't only plan for reclamation for right now, but also looking into the future.
All right, great. Next question was, did you explore using geomorphic reclamation techniques?
Yes, we've done that in the past. We've had experiences in New Mexico where we want to do geomorphic reclamation. However, it's very challenging for maintenance and very expensive. So in our lessons learned, we've encountered that what we did in Bisbee, so far it's been the best type of reclamation because it's easier and less expensive for maintenance.
Someone else asked that they saw that field trips to Bisbee Reclamation were advertised last year but canceled due to COVID. Any idea when and whether they will be able to take those tours again?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can email me my email address. We can share it, and then we can schedule something. Of course, we're always happy to show what we've done. And then Bisbee is a really cool town. You can also do the mine tour underground, the mine museum, and then we can tour the tailings dams and all the reclamation.
Yeah, that'd be great. How do you choose the appropriate plant species that will adapt and maintain equilibrium?
Oh, that's a great question. So even before planning reclamation, we do vegetation inventories of what grows near the site, so where we're reclaiming. So we go with the botanist, do a list and inventory of every plant that grows there. And then, like I said, also, I go into the USDA plant database, and then I look at all the plants that are adapted to this specific area, and then to even lower precipitation rates than what we received so far. So we have plants that are adapted for extreme drought and extreme low nutrients in case that was the case. So that's how we choose the seed mix.
Perfect. Someone wanted to know, how often are you using engineered products in your reclamation, like geosynthetics or concrete revetments, as an example, versus natural or native soils? And what's your preference if cost wasn't a consideration?
Yeah, that's another really good question. Thank you. We do have a break line when we use ACBs, for example, articulated concrete blocks. So when we run the hydrology and hydraulics modeling, if we need to use riprap that is bigger than 12 inches, then we go ahead and start using the ACBs. We prefer to use just natural features because it's lower maintenance. But whenever we have areas where we know we're going to have a big flow, we want to go ahead and use the articulated concrete blocks for channels. And using blankets, it's minimal the amount of blankets we use because we always try to design for not having to use them, so we can just seed them and vegetation can take over. But we've used them in the past when our slopes are really long and steep, and maybe it's a safety issue to put equipment on top to regrade. Then we go ahead and use this engineering controls.
Mhm. And then obviously you showed us a lot of post-mining reclamation, but what are some things that sites do while in operation that help with reclamation in the future?
So that's a big driver right now that we're doing ongoing reclamation. So I mean, it's doable. People can mine at the same time and start reclamation while they're mining, so we don't have to catch up all at the end when the mine life, stops. So yeah, we're starting to adopt that strategy to start closing at least the stockpiles, because tailings dams take longer to drain. But at least stockpiles, we try to do it as an ongoing reclamation as the mine progresses.
For sure. And a question more from our younger audience, how did you personally as an environmental engineer get involved in the mining industry?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting that when I first started my career, I was very focused in actively helping the environment. Then I started my master's degree and I was doing a lot of research and looking at how climate change was affecting vegetation. But I didn't only wanted to do research and see how bad things were getting. I actually wanted to do something about it. So when I was looking for jobs, I was looking for sites or in the industry that was actually doing something to help. So that's how I found the Freeport and how I found the Reclamation Department. And I'm very happy to look at these pictures and see how we're actually making a change, how we're helping. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do, but we've done a great progress so far. And I'm very happy to drive by a mine site, like in this case, Bisbee. And then if you don't know there was a mine there, you can't tell. There used to be stockpiles there. So it's very, very gratifying and exciting to just see that we're doing a difference. We're helping.
Yeah, I love it. A couple of more questions. Have there been sites where bat mitigations were required?
Yes, absolutely. That's a big one. Whenever we're doing historic mine closure or for like exploration, we close shafts. We always take in consideration all these features, like what wildlife lives in there. So if it's bats, we close the shaft or the adit for people to get in to avoid safety concerns or people falling in them. But we also leave these gates for bats to still use it as a cave for them to reproduce or just live there. Also, we leave features if smaller critters live in that area, like snakes, or we always plan for closing them for the public, but leaving them open for wildlife, in this case, including bats.
All right. Well, I believe that's all the questions we have had asked. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move into our closing. But Libby, again, thank you so much for presenting. And it was a really interesting and a very positive talk. We definitely had a lot of positive feedback on there as well. As you can see, we are also active on social media. So we'd like to ask everybody to follow us on there. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot. And then we'd also want to invite you to join us for our future events. Our next dig-in presentation will be on September 14th on high wall mapping using drone-based hyperspectral imagery at the Array Mine. Our next quarterly event will be on October 1st in Tucson as an in-person networking event. So be on the lookout for more information coming soon and make sure to register in advance. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for attending, and we're going to go ahead and share some links on there as well for everybody. But thank you, Libia, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you.